Namaste and welcome to Shri and Kira Live. I am Shri Ramka.
And I am Kira Ra, and we are so delighted to be right here at bbsradio.com, at onenesstalkradio.com, at YouTube, over at Official Shri and Kira, and with you right now. Thanks for being here.
You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful day, and we're broadcasting to you from India today. Recorded live on tape, as they say.
We are live on tape, and it is actually our Sunday night. We are recording this, and I'm staring out. I wish I could show you guys. I'm staring out this beautiful New Delhi experience here, and it's pitch dark right
it's pitch
now.
Dark. We're 11, 12 hours ahead of the other continent, and we had the most fabulous sunset. So I want to start with that.
Let's do that.
Because there is something magnificent about a sun that is refracted through the haze.
Oh, yeah.
And it was such a big, glowing orange ball of beauty, orange yellow, that I just was captivated. And it reminds me to remind you that when we gaze at the sun and our heart is open and our upper chakras are open, you will find that the regeneration energy that comes into you is tangible.
Yeah.
So for those of you that have not tried sun gazing, go do a little research. I'm not saying go out and stare at the sun without doing a little homework. However, it can be a most uplifting and rejuvenating experience.
Well, especially at sunset, because it's kinder on the eyes, especially if you're just beginning. And you know, Shri, as you were sharing, my heart was thinking about today and what's happening, because as the sun is setting here, or has set now here in India, the sun is also rising for many of you that are connecting with this show. And that is so what is going on our planet right now. As we mentioned yesterday, now I just want to jump in and say, if you did not catch yesterday's show, it was an all new episode of Explore the Mysteries. Number one, why not? And number two, go watch yesterday's show. Yeah. Shri, where can they watch that show?
That show is posted at Oneness Talk Radio at the show page for Explore the Mysteries. It's also posted at YouTube at the Oneness Talk Radio YouTube channel, as well as Official Shri and Kira.
Yeah,
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. So go check that show out.
Powerful
because
show.
It really was. And the reason I'm bringing it up, other than really you want to watch it, because it really sets the stage for everything we're talking about today. And we also released incredible film and footage from Varanasi, from Sarnath, India, lots of experiences. But I was thinking about that orange sun and that third chakra. And it felt to me like I was watching the third chakra this afternoon as we were catching that incredibly gorgeous sunset. And I was thinking about the symbolism, you know, the rich symbolism, especially as we are in this new dawn rising moment for humanity. And I was really reflecting on how the way that the third chakra has been functioning in density is setting. That there is a very extraordinary moment at hand. And as we were talking about yesterday, this rich second cycle of December 8 through 20, is very much about this experience of the pyramid of spiritual awakening as this reflection. And again, we spent an extensive amount of time on this yesterday. Really go connect with that show, Explore the Mysteries.
Well, and there's a couple of pieces that I want to talk about
Please
today.
do, yeah.
But before we get there, I'm back with you on that third chakra. So consider for a moment that the paradigm on this planet has been about power and competition and power over others and this endless struggle.
I'm like losing my breath listening to you talk about that.
But that is the traditional expression of the third chakra energy.
Right.
That is not what the third chakra is. It's an expression of it. So play with that for a second, because this energy is truly about your spiritual empowerment, not your physical domination over self or other.
Right.
And as we are transiting into the new earth, the new era, the foundation of a fifth dimensional reality, that chakra of empowerment turns into a chakra of trusting your power and trusting the divine nature of all being. True empowerment is foundationalized in a trust in your nature.
Well, I'm loving that because you're also I always go back to how Archangel Zadkiel has always said that trust and love are the same energy.
Yeah.
And so I was reflecting how the ascended presence of the third chakra is very much about the Ananda moment, the joy moment, a moment of true freedom where the body celebrates that it's safe, where it's trusting the soul to lead. It really is that precipice or that balance moment of calling in a self-ascended life.
And calling in a self-ascended life means that I trust that I'm okay. My needs will be met.
Right.
I'm safe here. It's okay to be me.
Right.
And that foundational energy is the basis upon which a new form of density can be co-created. Density isn't going away, but the quality of it can change dramatically.
Oh, it's morphing. I mean, I think we can all agree density is morphing, and that's why this is such a powerful show, because we're really wanting to dive deep today, as we teased you all with yesterday, about this new dawn rising and what that really means. And this is a profound experience for all beings, and wherever you are, whatever dimension, whatever experience of consciousness you're having, it is a new dawn rising. And remember that in the month of December, and again, I encourage you, go back and revisit the December Ascension Energy Forecast. You know what? Easiest place to find it, it's right on the homepage at ShriAndKara.com. Just go and watch it again, because as we mentioned at the beginning of this month had a lot of lunar activity. You know, even though the moon was not like, blood moon or this moon or that moon, this energy of the moon was very, very potent in December. And let us not forget, and we talked about this extensively yesterday, just another poke to go watch that show, the 12-12-12, remember 2119 was another 12, the 12-12-12 full moon is what kind of brought in this radiation of illumination, and that was sitting pretty much in the middle of this current 8 through 20 cycle.
And this feminine energy that really got going in November.
Very much so.
Very present for us, has a lot to do with receptivity and mirroring, because the moon is a mirror, is it not? The moon is another quality of radiation.
Yes.
And so if we look at what's going on here in December, we are being bathed with an energy of support. And that energy, are you willing to receive it?
Well, and remember, we're being bathed with courage, strength, and support. So that support is really the illumination of that inner courage and strength, which is all back to that third chakra, right? It is very much about that balance of power and the struggle for the balance of power, whether that's an inward journey or an external experience.
Well, and what everyone seems to know is that the antidote to fear is love.
Yes, absolutely.
And that to live in your heart doesn't mean you give your power away. This is real important. So those lower chakras have to be in a state of ascended balance where peace, love, and joy are a natural state of being.
Shanti, Bhakti, Ananda.
Shanti, Bhakti, and Ananda. And then we are able to co-create from a place of love, where love brings in the discernment and the wisdom of a deeper way of living.
Yeah.
And so it's just we're at a wonderful time, and the reflective energy of this moon and what's going on, you're going to notice it more easy to see how your energy is being received and what the universe is reflecting back to you.
And this is where the pyramid of spiritual awakening comes in, and this is what we were sharing yesterday, is that as you really connect with that, remember that there's this river or this ocean, whatever experience you're having, that ignites us between the upper experiences of spiritual activism and the entry levels into ascension awareness. What is the magic? It's a cycle, and that cycle is called gratitude, giving, receiving, and it's a constant flow. And again, we spent a lot of time talking about this yesterday, so I don't want to spend too much time on it right now, other than to offer you the reminder that if we go back to that full moon opening in November,
yes,
remember that was the illumination that was permanent. everything was in front of you. Everything could be seen in a month of great choice. And that was also a month of extraordinary experience. And so the choice that came forward in November has already been, I was going to use the word resolving itself, because sometimes we don't even know we've made the choice. Sometimes we've made a choice, but we don't feel very resolved with that choice. And, you know, I'm smiling because very personally, Sri and I were bridging the world during this time. You know, we wound up leaving Ecuador and coming over to India. We've been up to Bhutan. We're going to be sharing a lot about Bhutan in the second half of the show today, and why we went, what we discovered, which is going to surprise you, and why we left early, and have been in India much longer than we anticipated, and that's a really magical experience. And so this all goes back to that up-level moment, and I'm just going to throw it out there. This new dawn rising is the up-level moment. And why is that so important? Well, I'm sure you're already feeling that. Let us not forget that 2020 is having this slow ramp up, right? The energy of 2020 is already kind of like, I'm going to use the word embracing us, right? It's already all around us saying, I'm right here. How you like me now, right? And so that started in December 1. And then as we're moving through these December cycles, lest us not forget that December 31 is going to be its own little moment this year, this month. January, moving from the December month of awareness, January, we're opening up 2020 in a month of experience, in a year of mastery experience. And, you know, you and I were talking about this earlier, Sri,
like
about what it's like, whoa, you know, I was giggling with Sri saying, this is not a ready, set, go moment. This is a go, set, ready, you know, and it really is, because whether you like it or not, 2020 is a pull. It's already pulling you in. It's already showing you. It's already bringing forward that energy. And make a note, Sri and I will be live next week on this show. We will be taking your calls. It will be our first live broadcast back at Tosa Blue Mountains. So, hey, make a note. We're excited. And I'm excited because the moon will be going into its new moon phase right around Christmas. And there is a lot to be sharing about that, because it's a big week. Next week is one of those weeks that I feel that it could not have been more perfectly timed, that we're going to be available live with all of you beautiful, amazing people that we miss so much.
A lot of fun coming up.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
and a lot of fun here now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I want to underscore, communicate something that this is clear to me in the moment, so let me share it. You know, people, all of us, transit through the pyramid of spiritual awakening.
Right.
And we talked yesterday about density consciousness.
Go watch that show.
And spiritual activism is the next evolutionary zone. And activism is where we acknowledge that there are other beings and that we want to try to change them and change how things are going. Then we mentioned the cycle of gratitude, giving, and receiving, which sits at the threshold between activism, spiritual activism, and ascension awareness. Now, ascension awareness refers to that state of consciousness where you're in the world but not of the world, where we're in a place of that fifth dimensional energy of compassion, and we're a bit detached from the emotional dramas. Well, here's two caveats that I just wanted to share. When you're able to be in gratitude for that which has occurred and that which didn't occur, when we're able to find the joy in giving to others and also find the joy in just receiving,
right,
then we're in the ease of that harmonious, love-centered flow.
Well,
not competitive, not taking.
Right.
It's the ease of giving and receiving. The gratitude is this wonderful, call it the lubricant of all harmony.
But that's it. It's the three together.
Yes.
Neither one of them is more important than the other. It's a cycle. Gratitude, giving, receiving. Gratitude, giving, receiving. Gratitude, giving, receiving, which means that all three must exist.
And it'll pop you into ascension awareness.
And keep you there.
And the other quality, and we've talked about this every few months, is the ability to truly have the energy of forgiveness toward those perceived errors, those perceived things. Because as we cultivate the capacity to recognize that whatever happened at a level of consciousness that they couldn't have done it any better. That's where they were at the time. And as you lift, we can forgive and let it go. We can be in gratitude for the practice of lifting, for the practice of the detached perspective.
Yeah.
And we start to anchor in that field of compassion that leads us to the field of non-judgment.
Love that.
And so these energies, this is what we're dancing with. This is the opportunity that has come forward so viscerally this month, is what is being reflected back to you, not only in the outer world, but in your inner thoughts. What kind of reflections are going on? And then apply the universal salve of gratitude to that, and see what comes forward.
Well, the giving and the receiving is what will come forward. When you, I love the universal salve, you know, when that gratitude is not just something you say, when it's not a token energy, when it's beyond a simple thank you, when gratitude is a state of being, it is a recognition, and that is what ignites true awareness. You know, remember that on the pyramid of spiritual awakening, it's density consciousness. Why is that? Because we are born into it. It is part of the yes when we said, I want to go to art school, right? And so the density consciousness is the pervasive energy of this worldly, illusionary, co-creative experience. And that's why it's the foundation. You know, never forget, it's actually the foundation of this illusionary experience. And so, as you always say so beautifully, my love, you can't play your way off that game board. The only way off is through consciousness, because it begins with a consciousness. However, it is the consciousness of density. And what I'm moving toward here is that when we get to ascension awareness, remember that all energy frequencies, all spiritual acceleration always moves in the same three energies. This is why the Trinity, this is why there's all this three energy. It's awareness, experience, and choice. And this is all in our new book, which we will be getting out soon. But when we move into true ascension awareness, what we're really saying is that we are free from density consciousness, because we are aware. And awareness, you know, I giggle years ago, you know, in the business world, they always talk about, you know, you don't know what you don't know until you know it kind of thing. Yeah. That's what awareness is. Ascension awareness is a moment of eye-opening whereby the bigger view comes in. Mm-hmm. Instead of the spiritual activism, which is very much about an us, but it's very much also about us versus them.
Object-based.
Exactly.
Versus the context of the greater field of experience.
And this is the gift of that ever-refining spiral. You're always in the spiral. The question is, are you spiraling up, or are you spiraling down, or are you just kind of spiraling like in loops?
Are you hovering?
Right. Are you hovering? Are you lateral, right? But you're always going through awareness, experience, and then choice. And this brings us back to this very moment of December. We are at this new dawn rising moment. It is a month of awareness. Thereby, what are you inviting in? What is coming into that awareness through that November choice? Because in this up-leveling opportunity, in this new dawn rising for all beings, I mean all beings, we are literally being prepared. And this goes back to what we were saying earlier, this December 1 long, slow slide into January 1. We are all being prepared because January it begins January 1. We're going to all wake up January 1, and you are going to be in the moment of mastery experience. And there will not be any warm up. There will not be any, you know, hey, did you do your stretching beforehand? That's right now. You know, Sri and I are on the treadmill every day for at least an hour. And one of the things that you always have to do is warm up the body, stretch the body. Well, we are all so loved that the universe has given us this nice, long, slow entry into this coming moment, which is 2020, the year of mastery experience, jumping right in with a January that is an experience energy month. Now, we're not going to say more than that right now because you got to be there with us New Year's Eve. Tell them about that, Sri.
Well, New Year's Eve is going to be a wonderful party. as well as a mystical ceremony. Yes. So what we love to do on New Year's is gather together in spiritual community and have fun.
Yes,
F-U-N.
Lots of F-U-N.
And then we culminate that joy through a moment of celebration of ceremony, celebration of spirit. And Kira generously offers us a wonderful connection, a deep ensoulment into the ascended realms.
Yeah.
And the wisdom, the healing energy, and the discernment that comes through is truly an ignition. Truly an inspiration.
You know, and this year we've made it uber easy because we know so many of you were disappointed last year and it broke our hearts as much as it might have broken yours. And so this year we will be broadcasting on YouTube Live. Everyone is welcome. And so you want to make a note of that. However, if you want to get all of the extra goodies, all of the other details, please, 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 it is free. Register right there at our homepage. Go to ShriandKara.com, and right across from the December Ascension Energy Forecast, you'll see, hey, register, click right here to register for the free New Year's Eve.
And what that will give you is you'll get the live stream of the pre-function with the party music, with a glimpse into the gala and people saying hello. And what we realized is that YouTube doesn't like us to play music. Except copyright-free music. Well, frankly, there's a lot of really good music that has a copyright that we're going to be playing at the party, so we can't broadcast it at YouTube. So if you join us on the private video stream for the hour before, you'll get to participate with everything, and there'll be a couple of surprises also.
Yeah,
we'll be saying hello to you.
Yeah, so we're really excited, and we hope that you will join us. So I want to jump back into this up-leveling that's going on right now, this new dawn rising, because chances are you're noticing the up-level experience going on in your life right now. And that doesn't always mean it's comfortable, you know, and I think that brings us to our Bhutan experience and to talk about that a little bit right now as well, sure. Shri, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, first off, let's just get on some common terminology. We are all awakening and ascending.
Yes.
One of the beautiful discernments is, what are you awake to? And where are you lifting to? The authentic ascension experience is one of an ever-refining vibrational spiral, a lifting energy.
Awareness, experience, choice.
And it is a spiraling energy. Mm-hmm. And what happens is, as we start to uplift, or as we continue this lifting process, many people try to carry with them on that journey the old paradigms, the old hurts, the old judgments, the old habits, which served at one level of consciousness, but really don't work well at a more refined level of consciousness.
Yeah, it's well said.
And so what happens is, as our soul, as we are lifting, you may find that you need to heal some things or let go of some attachments in order to make the journey more comfortable.
Now, this is where and we've been talking about this all year, and we're going to keep talking about it. I don't know that we'll ever stop talking about it, but this is where that third, fifth, seventh, ninth dimensional overlay becomes extraordinarily valuable, very, very beneficial, because when we can begin witnessing ourselves and then lift into that fifth dimensional experience and the seventh dimensional experience, that's when we can ignite those compassionate energies. That's when we can be free from the judgments that seek to limit us. And in order to up level, all of that must clear. And Shri, I think that's why we're going to Peru this year.
Yeah.
You know, this year being 2020. And so I guess I kind of let the cat out of the bag. But hey, the details are out there. We are going to be in October 2020 on 10/10/2020. Check out that date. There's a reason we're starting that day. We will be up-leveling with 3 profound attunements and extraordinary Sacred Valley journeys in Peru. This is one of the most affordable sacred journeys we've ever taken. We are really filling fast, guys. At this moment, we've barely announced it, and we're already a little over half full. Jump in, get in. You'll have plenty of months to make payments if you need to. But that's also at ShriandKara.com.
Yeah,
right? As soon as you land
out
on the homepage, you can't miss it. It's right there at the top saying, hey, up level in Peru. And I can't think of a better way to up level than to really anchor that energy.
There is a part of the joy of an ascending consciousness is the resolution of the history the journey of the soul.
Yeah.
We begin to have a new context for our whole experience. And it's not just about this one little speck called a lifetime.
Right.
It's about the greater journey.
Yeah.
And Prue carries some of those mysteries and will unlock them.
Well, I've got to say, Sri, I've got to say, I'm sorry, honey, that it was 10 years ago. No, it was 15 years ago. It was in 2005. It was in 2005 when Sri and I first brought a group to Peru to open at the behest of the Archangelic Realm the very first ascension portal on the planet that would anchor through this moment now. And we did that at the Marae Circles in 2005. And we have been granted special access to go back there. And I find that very profound. Yeah, I really do, because it's an up-level moment. And some of these portals are destabilizing. And that's because of what's happening right now. That's what this show is all about today. And so look into your heart.
Yeah.
Really.
We invite you to join us.
Yeah.
It's going to be a nourishing trip.
Extremely.
Back to up-leveling.
Well, we're still up-leveling. That's why I brought it in, because we're so far future-paced. That's why it has to be in 10-10. We will be at Marae that very first day, 10-10-2020, and there's a reason for that.
There is indeed.
Yeah.
And we'll share more about that with those that join us.
Absolutely.
So we made this journey to Bhutan. And,
all right, take a breath. Just everybody take a breath. I'm taking a breath. Okay. And we're going to be throwing some video and some pictures off and on as we're chatting about this.
Well, so one of the things I want to share that maybe is a little more personal is that one of the ways that Kira and I relax into our self-ascension, relax into the process, is to...
I got to put my arm around him.
I'm
relaxing into the process. Go ahead, Sri.
Is to unplug from the activities and the energies that would keep you tied to density frequencies or even spiritual activism or ascension awareness frequencies. So what this means for us is to unplug from worldly affairs and to just be. And what we know was that when we give ourselves that gift, we start to float ever higher. Well, Bhutan was one of those kind of unplugging moments.
Well, not only that, what I think was important to share here is that it was over a year ago that we received the call to go.
Yes.
And I think all of you know, and this is kind of why I was pulling in close to my sweetheart here, that we set that in motion, and then over that year, everything that happened in 2019, and I think all of us are probably at this moment where we're reviewing 2019 and going, wow.
What a year.
I mean, was your 2019 a year of wow? Our sure was. And we've been really taking the time to look at we were just doing this earlier today and saying, this happened, this happened, this happened. And in addition to that, we had to go through our own literal death rebirth experiences. I think many of you have noticed that Sri and I have physically transformed in many, many ways, along with another form of up-leveling. And that's part of what's been happening. And so Bhutan has been a hover. It was like a hovercraft all year. That's how I was experiencing it. It was very much like this hovercraft. And in many ways, arriving there, it is a hovercraft.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's high altitude.
Right, it's super high altitude. It's outside of the world. It's really outside of the world in some ways that are lovely, and in some ways that, quite frankly, are the reason we left early.
Yeah, and we'll detail that.
Yeah.
But leading into Bhutan, the thing I want to say is what we noticed as the plane landed was a sense of spaciousness.
Yeah.
This is a mountain country in the Himalayas that has very little population for its landmass. There aren't a lot of folks there.
700,000
in the whole country
is the country. Yeah. Now take in a country that only has 700,000 residents. That tells you how much space is there.
And due to the consciousness of the country, 70% of the landmass may not be developed. And you feel that. You feel that immediately. And there's no carbon issue there. Everything is organic.
There's no chemtrails. There's nothing.
And so we felt that immediately.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
one of the blessings.
It was the literal breath of fresh air, which we also feel at Tosa Blue Mountain, Ecuador.
Yeah.
And that was part of why we wanted to go to Bhutan, is we felt very strongly that we were going to really look at this bridge between the two continents.
Well, and there is a bridge, as
Yeah.
a side note, between the Himalayas and the Andes. These you could call them two spinal cords on the earth.
Well, in some respects, it was funny because when we landed in Paro, we were actually at lower altitude than we live at in Ecuador. Yeah. So it was really kind of, we thought we were going to the higher altitude. I'm like, oh, well, this is easy.
but the mountains are all around.
Oh, and they're huge.
Paro, Bhutan is in the valley.
Yeah, we're putting these pictures in, so you'll see all this as we're talking.
And so I do want to just acknowledge that my first experience when we got to Bhutan was this
pristine.
And in the relaxing, guess what happens? Your soul's vibration starts to lift. And every one of you, I am sure, that you've had these experiences where you go out into nature, where you let go of the patterns and the stress, and begin to be regenerated, begin to be renewed, begin to heal in another way, just by being in a setting that is free from those stresses. So this is, one thing I want to, if you had to make a little cliff notes, in order to facilitate your ascension process, please reduce stress.
And some of you might be saying, yeah, easy for you to say. You know what? This is the blessing of the mantra of self-ascension. When seriously, it can be that simple. When you're, and I always have malas on, it's just, you grab your mala, I am here, I am ready, I am open, guide me. I am here, I am ready, I'm open, guide me. Or go into our app, right? Spiritual Mastery with Shri and Kira, Apple, Android, get the app, it's free. Listen to one of the meditations. Yeah. A stress reduction moment can be just that. It can be 3 to 5 minutes, and that will be enough to ignite the higher presence within. Yeah. That's a mastery moment. That's an up-level choice.
Well, and then one of the things that Bhutan is known for is the entire country is steeped in authentic Buddhism.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I want to use the word authentic, Shri. I think the word would be their version, because it is certainly Buddhism, but there are many schools of Buddhism. I don't
mean to put a limit on it by any fashion. What I am trying to suggest is
that it's the real deal.
That it's the real deal. There is commitment. Right. There is honoring. There's respect, and it's
mandated.
And it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So church and state are overlapped.
Well, it's king and state. Yeah. It's king and state, and that's very evident.
Yeah. And so one of the delights that we experienced was being able to touch into the inner sanctums in some of these stupas.
We were granted unprecedented access, and we were really grateful to the gentleman who arranged all of that for us. And so, that was really an incredible, monasteries that normally tourists aren't allowed to go to, things that were really off the beaten path.
And what I learned is that many of these sites, visitors and pilgrims could walk in, but they have inner rooms. They have
upper rooms, which we got into.
There are areas that are normally not open to the public, even the locals.
Yeah.
That the Rinpoches and some of the monks guard and protect, and we were so grateful that we were able to touch into those energies, and they're so pure and beautiful.
And that's the key: is that because Bhutan has been closed for so long, the up-level experience there is immediate. But, and it's a really important disclaimer, you have to have access to these other areas. Otherwise, it felt very touristy to me. It was very whitewashed in many ways, and it was really because we had access to these inner chambers and these inner realms that it went deep. Because and this is a reflection of that level of consciousness, that just because the country has incredibly beautiful scenery, pure air, low population, does not mean that the general population is all walking around in ascended consciousness.
Not at all.
Quite the opposite.
That's very true. There is another discernment to share, and that is that as an emerging country, it's very much coming out of its third world category, if we were going to use that as a way of communicating. And the level of consciousness in the common folks represents or is reflecting that state evolutionary process.
Yeah, and it's very evident. And I found it very, very, very challenging.
And so this is kind of, we're going to plant a seed here for the rest of our conversation, because on the one hand, in the inner sanctums of these monasteries and stupas, there is a pristine, beautiful energy
Extraordinary.
that was set in place hundreds of years ago. Some of these paintings and energies were put in place in 7th century. So consider that. We were
thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
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 That we were touching into frequencies that were, call it, immemorialized by ascended beings who were there almost 2,000 years ago.
We were extraordinarily blessed and honored. There was one stupa in particular, and this was an extraordinarily profound moment for us where, you know, from the outside, it's just this beautiful stupa. And I had no idea that when you walk inside, that there were concentric spiraling rooms, and we were allowed to enter these rooms. Now, entering these rooms meant climbing a vertical ladder that was extremely rickety and dangerous.
That was made out of wood and has been used for 500 years.
So the wood was like this from the steps.
The wood was very slippery.
Very. And we were just like, okay, if you really, you know, you had to, I felt very much that was part of the pilgrimage, was part of the, you know, as I was climbing that with such presence
and
going
exercise
up.
and mindfulness.
Right. And they're big, they're tall. These are very tall rooms. And we'll show you a picture of the outside of that stupa. But what was so extraordinary was that we were in these perfectly round rooms that got much smaller as you went up.
Like a wedding cake.
Representing ascension. Literally representing ascension. And that the walls were original 1,000-year-old frescoes or paintings, and they were covered. That energy was mind-blowing, magnificent, and so rich. Yet the local population is not allowed to enter. And that's where it became very evident that there was still this sense of extreme hierarchy and oppression. And at one point, and it wasn't just because of this, at one point I had to sit down with my husband and almost whisper because I felt afraid to say it out loud. When you're in Bhutan, the people that you're allowed to interact with, at one point I said to Sri, are we in North Korea? It was like the people you're allowed to interact with, the people you're allowed to see are all saying the same thing. Are you happy? Happy in Bhutan? Happy in Bhutan? Because, you know, they're known as the happiness over gross national product. Yet happiness is a mandate. And I found that to be very fascinating as an energy.
Well, it has... And please don't hear this as criticism.
It's not. It's our experience.
There is an observation here.
Yeah.
And we come with a much wider context than many other folks might.
And Sri and I have literally traveled the entire world.
Happiness, as well as the Dharma, have taken on a dogmatic quality.
It was the first time we saw happiness as dogma.
And so happiness was a code of living rather than a state of being in the eyes of some. In the eyes of some, hear that. And so what we were struck by is, now this stupa that we're describing to you that had the 3 levels, at the lower level were these fantastic tankas and paintings showing the Dharma and the teachings, etc.
And stunning.
And this is where most people enter. When you go up a level, guess what the paintings are showing? Death, conflict, the bardo, the demons, and all of the challenges that are there that keep us from ascending higher. Demonic energy, or those kinds of energies, have many faces. The face of that which would hold you back is unique to your coloring book. You know, where did you grow up? What are the myths and things that are in your unconscious mind? And so we were fascinated. We went up a level. It was showing the tensions and the joy and the sorrows and the
very beautiful and very well done from the human experience. And we were up leveling through it, right?
Yes.
Remember, this is all about this new dawn rising.
And so while the pictures on the walls were representing these dualities and pitfalls, the frequency was higher.
Much. It was fascinating.
And I've been charting levels of consciousness for more than 20 years.
I keep telling him to get that book out there.
And objects and paintings and people and foods and what has what. Anyway, the level of consciousness was significantly higher, yet the visual reference was much more mythological, which was interesting.
And then you, of course, went up to the very top, which represented the Ascension. And it shifted again, and it was gorgeous. And
much more tantric, much
yes.
more the balance of the male and the female, and the
right.
harmonic coming into oneness.
And this was in Paro, and it was extraordinary, and it was exquisite. And one of the things that struck me was, and this struck me everywhere we went, is that they have prayer wheels everywhere. I mean, huge prayer wheels that are like, I don't know, 10 feet tall, 12 feet tall, that, spin, and you go up, and they're flawless. They're so easy to spin. And then around this one place we were at, the Stupa, and everywhere we went. I mean, it was everywhere. Prayer wheels, prayer wheels, prayer wheels. And it was really fascinating, because in the up-level experience, it's about the prayer. In the density experience, it's about the wheel. And I would watch so many people just spin the wheel, spin the wheel, spin the wheel.
And try to do a good job
and it was
spinning.
About, and spinning every single wheel. And the question is, was it about the prayer wheel, or is it about the prayer? And this was part of what I was finding very, very fascinating, what Sri and I were both finding very fascinating as we were there. I think the other thing when it comes to up-leveling is, this was the first you and I became aware of the huge conflict between Tibet and Bhutan.
Yeah.
And we were, I don't know if you guys knew about this, but all of these big fortresses, these like the Paro Zong, which was extraordinary, and when I would ask about it, it turned out that their greatest battles came from invaders from Tibet. And I found that very fascinating, that these are both highly culturally Buddhist countries that teach compassion and all the other, yet they were at war with each other, and they were killing each other for a long time for all of the traditional reasons that many countries go to war. They wanted the land, they wanted the resources. And I found that to be very interesting, because there's still an edge there. When we would ask about that, I said, please talk to me about this conflict with Tibet. The righteousness was like, well, and I need to share that, it was just a fascinating moment of discovery, because I had no idea about this long history of war between the two countries. And it certainly was a very profound eye-opener for us as well.
And you mentioned the prayer wheels.
Right.
They also have a fabulous number of prayer flags.
I mean, breathtaking everywhere, in configurations that would blow your mind. And you're getting some of those photos.
And at face value, this is such a delightful practice, because
extraordinary.
The intention around the prayer wheel and the prayer flags are 100,000 prayers of compassion, sending out into the universe,
and
out around the world.
It's powerful, and it does carry potent energy.
Yeah. The whole thing that as the wind flaps the flag, it's agitating or stimulating this flow of may all beings find peace, may all beings ascend, etc. All of the prayers of compassion. And so I just take off my hat and say I applaud a culture that would make that put that in the mainstream.
Right, and it is everywhere.
Yeah,
and so moving that before Sri and I left for Bhutan, we had already made a plan to christen a hill of prayer flags at Tosa Blue Mountain. And as a matter of fact, those flagpoles have been going up while we've been gone. And we are eager to get back and put up all of the flags, because there is a potency in that energy. And it really is quite breathtaking. As those of you that are watching us have been seeing, we've been giving you quite a few different photos of that. And I want to move on, because I want to talk about Tiger's Nest and Little Tiger's Nest.
Sure.
Because this was our next eye opener. Now, many of you probably know or have at least seen photos of Tiger Nest. It's basically the postcard of Bhutan.
It's symbolic within the nation, showing that monastery on the side of the hill.
And we, of course, just like every other being who's going to Bhutan, was like, we're going to Tiger's Nest. And I went through 2D surgeries and a year of rehab to make sure I was going to walk up to Tiger's Nest.
It's a 2-hour walk uphill.
And at a good clip. And when we got there, we were informed that Tiger's Nest is militarized now. that the Indian Army has basically camped out there at the behest of the King of Bhutan. There was a fire there a couple of years ago. Things were stolen. They don't necessarily know if it was arson or not. That there are metal detectors. There are complete frisk downs. So after you walk all the way up, you're met by the military. And then you're not even allowed to any of the sacred chambers. And so we were, when Sri and I were first given that information, we had to really sit with that. And that was on top of some of the other, let's just say, inconsistencies between the travel brochure and the reality of Bhutan that was already having a deep effect on my energy field. I literally started getting sicker and sicker and sicker the more I was there. And what happened was that we were told by our beautiful dear friend there that, well, you know, there is another building that, or another structure, another monastery known as Little Tiger's Nest.
And Little Tiger's Nest is a little easier to get to. It is not as dramatic in its presentation, but it still is awesome.
It looks just like it.
It's not high up on the hill, singing out.
Well, it is, but you can actually drive up most of the way.
Get close to it. But here's the deal. What we discovered, and we're passing this discernment on to you, all of the sacred sites on this planet that have been open to tourism have declined in their energy vibration.
No matter how hard, and Bhutan, tip of the hat, has really done their best to keep it preserved.
They limit the number of tourists, etc.
Right.
However, this particular temple, Tiger's Nest, is the one that all the tourists go to, and now the inner sanctums are closed and opened one day a year only. That's it.
That's it.
And so those pristine energies are not even available, and then the more public spaces have had who knows how many tourists.
So that was the gift of Little Tiger's Nest.
Little Tiger's Nest.
Nobody goes because nobody knows about it.
It's a country temple. It's very authentic. Some of the photos that we've put up are from that area. And Little Tiger's Nest has multiple chambers. There's different buildings. We lit candles there.
Butter lamps.
We did meditation in one of the inner chambers that the frequency was vibrating well.
There was nobody there.
There was no one.
No one. We were literally, it was the monks and us, and some beautiful, and this was one of the other things, is that in all the literature they tell you there's no poverty in Bhutan, there's no this, there's no that. We saw plenty because we were way off the beaten path. As a matter of fact, there's a little video that we're showing you where you'll see the women hunched over walking by us there having these huge sacks of pine needles because they're trying to get ready for the winter. And we were with some local farmers and beautiful beings, but the energy in this monastery was extraordinary. This was really a highlight for us.
And I want to offer one other little learning perception here, observation. High frequency is not always recognized.
Right.
Many, many people, in fact, most of the world, cannot see past their own level of attainment.
Or their dogma.
Yeah. So you could pass, the ascended one could be walking on the street and they wouldn't notice.
Right.
Well, these monasteries, these inner sanctums, and the creations from the 1,000 years prior that energies were set are, while they may be revered, they may not be experienced. Mm-hmm. Remember, there's a difference there.
Yeah.
We can revere a dogma, we can revere a principle, but the true experience of the authentic energy comes with the cultivation of an open heart, open mind, and the release of the dogma.
Well, and that's why Little Tiger's Nest was so profound for Sri and I personally, because in that one little slice of Bhutan, there was no pressure to be happy. And I don't want to say anything negative about that other than because this was a very rural, poor little area, which is why they're not bringing tourists there. The energy in the temples was only held by these few little monks, and this one monk who was very, very old, and we caught a picture of him peeking out of a window as we were walking our way up. On the way back, he opened the most profound room for us. Yep. And again, we had to climb up the wooden ladder.
We were about to leave.
We were really ready to leave.
His heart opened to us.
And he saw us, and he had watched us all, and he watched us all come back. And this man opened what, for me personally, was the single greatest energy experience in all of Bhutan that nobody would ever know exists. including the locals, because it's so remote and it's so held by these very few elders that it was a fascinating energy to experience.
Well, and not surprisingly, this temple was dedicated to a female Buddha,
Sharing Ma,
who is holding the world in her hand
and holding the nectar of immortality, the Amrita. She is a very rare Buddha deity who is about ascension, and I literally morphed with her in that temple space and never left. There's a picture of me hugging the temple because I didn't want to leave. And that moment for me was the reason I think you and I went to Bhutan.
Yeah, there was a real, I think in our lives,
it was part of our up level. That was why we had to go.
That was very personal for us. And for me, I smile because in the Hindu tradition, my beloved Kira is very much aligned with Durga, who is a powerful, powerful deity. And Seri Ma is very much that way. She has awe and the force to kick ass when it's necessary, yet the compassion to hold the upliftment of the entire universe.
Unceasingly.
In her heart.
Yeah.
So it's one of those awesome, awesome experiences when we connect with that authentic energy. And we might be sharing more about that in the future.
I'm sure we will.
Because she is a powerful entity.
And so after that experience, Sri and I, we knew we were complete. We actually knew we were complete, and our group was moving on to another valley. And I was becoming more and more acutely aware that everywhere you went, with the single exception of Little Tiger's Nest, you were being tracked by men in black uniforms who were cell phoning everywhere you went. When you walked in a building, they would take a picture. When you came out, they would take a picture. And I don't know what database or where they were sending them to, but I was very aware that you were being overheard, that you were being monitored, that you were being tracked. And it was already feeling very oppressive to me. And I kept getting physically ill. Really, to a point where I was so ill that when we arrived in the next valley, where for us, the minute we touched down in that valley, I felt the energy plummet dramatically. And upon entering into where we were, Sri and I made the hardest decision of our lives. And we knew that for the benefit of all, for the benefit of ourselves, for our own up-level integration, for the benefit of our group, we needed to go back to India.
Yeah, we were complete.
We were very complete.
And the teaching there, one of the reasons we share this is, when you let go of the mind's rationale for an experience or a continued experience, and instead listen inwardly, you'll know when you're complete. You'll know what your next step is. That's part of the guide me.
Right. And the December, courage, strength, and support, the courage it took for Sri and I to say, we need to leave. The strength, the inner strength that we needed to summon and that it would generate within us led to a support where we gathered the whole group together. And it was one of the most beautiful moments. And because of that, and next week, Sri and I are going to be sharing all about that, because how this show ends so fast, I'll never know. But Sri and I came back to India, and what has happened since we came back to India would have never transpired had we not honored the up level within our own lives, within our own energy, and recognized through our own courage, strength, and support, and the energy of December, our own mastery awareness in the anchorship of the choice made in November has brought us to this divine moment right now. And that's why we're sharing this journey with you, because humanity is at an up-level moment. This is an up-level presence. 2020 began on December 1. We're all being given this long, slow slide. December 31 is going to be its own little entity. And I just want to quick say that one of the things that came through in India was that I have to teach the Gita in February 2020. So, hey, go check that out right now. Join me.
The Bhagavad Gita is a classical piece that was written before the formation of religions. It's ancient.
At least 5,000 years ago.
And Kira's mastery of the deep understanding of this text, this spiritual text, will ignite metaphysical recognitions in you if you choose to participate.
Thank you, Shri.
And read the Gita and chat with her about the perceptions. You know, it ties back to the whole Bhutan thing.
Exactly.
When you are with a high frequency experience or a high frequency person, if we open, we will then lift. We will. That's a helping hand. It helps up level us. If we enter it with our own judgments, then we just sort of lock in and we miss that opportunity. We might get another opportunity in a different way. No experience is wasted. The thing is, where's your maximum lift? And it comes through being open, being available. I am here. I am ready. I am open. Consider that. And then the guidance comes through.
You know, it really does. And in the up-leveling of all humanity right now, it's also about harnessing that courage, strength, and support of this month and honoring yourself. Shri and I are not compromising on the up-level experience. We see it as the gift it is. We are in our moment of gratitude, giving and receiving. And next week, we are going to be here with you live. We are so excited. We're going to take your calls. We're going to do mini soul readings. We're going to share so much more because this moment of December is yours to claim, to harvest, and to be. So what is the awareness? What is reflecting to you? And are you giving yourself the gift of courage, strength, and support? Because as you claim it for yourself, it will come in around you.
And as we come to a close today, I just want to remind you, go check out the Peru journey. It's going to be wonderful.
ShriandKira.com, Peru journey, Bhagavad Gita, and New Year's. Make sure you're there.
Good stuff.
It is good stuff.
And so, beloveds, as we come to a close for today, take in that deep breath. Let a smile come to your face, and may you know that all is truly well.
Namaste.